Don't mind me. I was just tuning in to some gospel. Hallelujah. All right. So TikTok is live with me, and so are you, YouTube. How y'all doing? What's going on? Please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, hit the plus sign on YouTube. All right, all right. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you guys so much for your patience. um, it's day 7, y'all. How y'all doing with the shutdown? I want to know, how are you doing with this shutdown? Um, it's day 7. I'm kind of late because I wanted to make sure I had enough solid information to give you guys and not come up here not unprepared and looking foolish because I don't know, but I'm speculating. We don't speculate. We know on this channel. Yes. So anyway, my name is Brittany C. I am a nonprofit strategist of Right Division Plainly LLC. I'm also a Houston Score workshop presenter. And today, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We are now on part 7 of I call it the federal funding freeze. And as you saw the title, what the shut? We are in the middle of a shutdown, and yes, it is affecting the funding. But if you stick with me right now, I'm gonna dive into it. But first, I want to give you a little bit of introduction on this series. I know y'all been waiting for it, so here it is, and bear with me, y'all. I got my trusty clipboard with me, as always. So please like, share, subscribe, follow for more. Hit the plus sign for those of you all who are on TikTok. And also, as you know, the bigger the hair, the closer to God. So 9 months ago, that would have been in January. At the tail end of January, we experienced our I don't want to say it was a shutdown because then it wasn't so much of a shutdown as much as it was the funding being frozen because, a certain president said that had to stop. So that's why I started this series, just to keep my ear to the ground and letting y'all know what's happening, what's about to happen as far as the funding is concerned, because there's a lot of you all that follow me, a lot of you all that are grant professionals, such as myself. You need to know what's going to happen with this funding because of this shutdown, because this is different from what happened in January. So again, I'm about to get into it. So we experienced the freeze like January, I want to say 27th, 28th, around that area. I made a video on the 29th. So I'm just going by my own timeline here. An awesome group of dedicated and political nonprofits, grant writers, they heard about this. They said, you can't shut down funding because, businesses rely on this. They were trying to shut it all down. If you were on Medicaid, and y'all remember this, if you do, if not, I'm just giving you a short recap. They were like, oh, we're shutting down food stamps, Medicaid, Medicare, everything, until these group of amazing nonprofits, grant writers, people, specialists, even in the political arena said, excuse me, Mr. President, you can't do that. So they are what enforced the second temporary the temporary order. I know it's a lot of things going on, a lot of executive order, but stay with me, stay with me, stay with me. So at that time, I did talk about this and the impact then. This one is going to be what I'm about to talk about in a few minutes, different because back then it wasn't a shutdown. It was just they froze all the funding because it was a part of Doge. They wanted to cut unnecessary spending. They wanted, that's when like gender specific stuff, like you saw a cease in that, you saw a cease in DEI and other things of that regard. I also talk about what could have happened back then because it was a lot of speculation. Not everybody knew, and the people that were kind of like me were keeping our ear to the ground. As soon as we hear something, we're telling you. Then we hear something else, and we're telling you again. So that's what it was in January. Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew what was going to happen next. And so I also talked about this same thing, the federal funding freeze. If you didn't know, I was called on by Now Media TV. Shout out to Now Media TV. Shout out to Nora El Masri from Echoes of Impact. Shout out to her, my friend, my partner, because because I was talking about this and no one else seemed to be talking about this, or everyone was but didn't, it wasn't enough information. I got a couple of episodes on that show, Now Media TV. It is on my YouTube playlist right now. If you want to go back and watch it, you can. If you want to also go back and watch parts 2 through 6, you can, because this is part 7. Or if you want to stay here, fine by me. But as of 7 days ago, like I just kind of mentioned, we entered the government shutdown. And we entered this because Congress couldn't come up with the guidelines for the budget on September 30th. So it was like at 11:59 and a half, they were like, oh, by the way, it's midnight October, we're shutting down. So the funding is at stake. So here's what you need to know about what's about to happen so long as this shutdown happens. Now, I I don't know how long it's going to be. The last shutdown, I think this happened lasted like 45 days and we're just on day 7. So it could be shorter than that, it could be longer than that. I don't know. And I don't want to give false hope when in a bunch of uncertainty. And I appreciate you guys for popping in, coming in, leaving a like. Please follow, please subscribe so you can know whenever I drop videos like this and it won't be a surprise to you. So now that I caught you up to speed, getting into the nitty gritty, what is the shutdown about? What is this about? And I'm not going to impose my political biases because that's not what this video is about. I'm not going to go and let you know who I believe is right or wrong. I'm keeping it neutral and letting you know what the facts are. So please keep it clean in the comments. Whoever is on what side, please keep it clean in the comments. That's all I have to say. And so we're on what we call for this shutdown. We're on what we call a budget deadlock. So although there is funding, and by the way, the best part about this is because we had a little more information now about it. And like I said, I've been watching the news. I've been watching other grant writers talk about this. I've been watching a lot. This does not impact SNAP, TANF, food stamps, Medicaid, Medicare, because in January, it would have impacted that somewhat. Now we know for a fact that part of the federal funding is safe. But when it comes to grants and other grants from the federal level, that's affected. And I'll jump into that later on in this segment. But thank you so much for your likes, your shares, your comments, and your enthusiasm. I appreciate it. I'm excited about this. I know y'all are. So, Congress wasn't able to agree on the budget for, September 30th by that deadline. This is what caused a shutdown. And like I said, we're 7 days in. So healthcare is saved from this, but it can be affected because certain healthcare payouts and benefits, it is what it is for that. So that is going to continue until that part of the funding runs out, so long as the freeze is in effect. Federal spending, including GovCon, that's on hold. Is like I said, we're on a deadlock. So if you were able, I just want to make this clear, if you were able to secure a government contract funding for that before this shutdown or right after the shutdown, you're fine because the funding is available for that. So long as we're in the shutdown and so long as the duration of the federal contract or any grants that you have gotten. But anything after that, it may be a little bit harder to get. But if you stay with me, I'm going to show you what you can do in your next steps to be prepared, like, to keep moving forward, what to do next. Also, I just mentioned it impacts grant funding, and I'm talking about the grant funding that's on the non-federal level. So that's your private donors, not your private donors, but those are your foundation grants. Those are the ones that where the highest competition are. Those grants are impacted not so much on the philanthropist side, the private funding side. They're fine. They're fine because they don't rely on government funding at all. So who's impacted? So if your business, nonprofit, church, program, project, cause was 100% funded, you're at stake because whenever the funding runs out because of the freeze, you may not be able to secure enough funding in time. That's all the funding there is. So you would have to know how to pivot, and stick with me and I'll get to it, I promise. But these are the businesses, the nonprofits, the churches, and everything else I just mentioned. So if you have a project, a program, a cause, even if it is a benefit to the community, even if it is something you're doing with your city, yes, it can have a big impact because we're in the middle of a shutdown. The government contract, I just kind of mentioned that already, so I'm not going to I'm not going to repeat that. And all the grants that have federal backing are stopped, paused for the moment. So, again, if your grant funding is solely relied upon by the federal government, it's shut down. So the pause is deadlock and indefinite until they say it's over with. But if you're more on the private side where you maybe have those foundations backing you, other donors, you're fundraising, you're not relying on the federal funding, you're okay. That's who's spared. So any nonprofit, church, cause, business that already made the 70 to 80% revenue, and maybe you have 30 to 20% of grant funding, you're fine. And this is why I have stressed for so long in the hill that I'm willing to die on, the 70-30 rule, because I'm able to see it play out in real time. For those who are affected because you have 100% funding from the government, it's like, okay, well, what do I do now? Because I only know this way. But having a contingency fund, a contingency layout in the event for things like this can save you in the long run. Those who have made the transition before this shutdown are spared. And here's what I mean, the transition. If you have solely 100% relied on grants, but you were seeing the trend, you were seeing where this was going, you were like, I think the shutdown is going to happen, but you got out of that, you're more on the you're abiding by the 70-30 rule, you're spared because you've gotten the majority of your funding on your own. You raise it yourself. You might have had a joint partner. You might have had a grant, but you didn't solely rely on that grant. So kudos to you. Congratulations. Help the rest of your brothers and sisters in the comments. But yeah, drop a comment for me. Let me know, like, how prepared were you for this government shutdown? I know it probably was not random, but how prepared were you? If you were like well prepared, put a Y in there for me. If you were not prepared at all, put an N. And if you were like in between intermediate, just put an I. But I promise I'm speeding through this as fast as I can because I want to give y'all the keys to what we can do next moving forward and how to keep securing funding. Because even though it's a shutdown, you can secure funding. Also, those fundraisers, like I mentioned before, you are privy to fundraising, you're a donor, you are along the lines of the person that knows how to go after funding that's not 100% attached to grants. You're fine too, because you know how to get funds, be it inside the grant or outside of the grant. You know exactly what you need to do to raise and secure funding. Alrighty. So here's how we keep moving forward. So there's a lot of factors that are out of our control. The shutdown, the funding, the getting the funding, the making sure that we don't lose our business and ourselves because of the funding. So the funding or lack thereof. So yes, this is all out of our control. So the next best thing to do right now is develop a plan. What are you doing now? What can you do now? How can you mitigate what you can do about your funding? Also, money is going to maybe it might get tight. I don't know yet. Right now, everyone is fine. um we're still living life. We have things that we got to pay for. For those of us who are business owners, we rely on revenue coming in. So life is going on regardless of the shutdown, as you can see. But we need to develop a plan of transition. Now, while I was writing my notes out for this, I'm like, I can make a checklist or some kind of template on the next steps on what we can do. I don't have it. I have to create it, but I can definitely do that for y'all. And maybe, I don't know, y'all let me know if you want it for free or you want to pay like a small fee for it. You just let me know in the comments and I will make this and get it out as soon as possible. And I also want to say, if you've already got in the mode of applying for grants, still apply for grant funding, because here's why. Here's the only stipulation about applying for funding right now that we're in the middle of the shutdown. We don't know when it's going to end. We don't know. That could be tomorrow sometime. That could be in the future. We don't know exactly when, the day, the hour, the time that it's going to end. So until then, still continue to apply for those grants before the deadline. Every grant has a deadline except for those rolling and ongoing grants that don't, or no deadline grants as I call them. You can apply for those. Those would be your best bet to apply for, but don't go rushing all at once and like have them shut down their site because everybody's like, oh, no deadline grants, I'm running towards that. You have to make a plan. You have to make sure that you are a match before you can even qualify for this funding. I know it goes without saying, but I still had to say it. I get it. Also, some grants are being released now. I don't have a list on which ones that are, but it goes into that category of rolling grants because if you apply for the grants now while they're open and it's a shutdown, they don't know when they're getting funding and you don't know when you're getting funding. So take advantage of applying for grants right now while funding is still available. And, some grants will run out, but until then, apply, keep applying. The grants may not be released after the deadline. There will be a significant delay in grant funding responses. Like once you get it and secure it, you may not know anything unless they tell you like, hey, you got it. We're sending you the information to let you know that you got it. We're sending you the check in the mail. We're depositing it in your account, whatever, however they give you the funding. But just make sure that you still apply, because after the deadline and the funding is released, that's when you'll get it. So basically, what I'm saying is, in plain English, apply for the grant before the deadline, still be in good standing, still do things the right way until the shutdown ends. And after it ends, funding will resume. And if you are a contender, if you did win, then you will get that part of funding, and it'll be a lot of like back pay on the funding. It'll hit you all at once. So just be prepared for that. But that's all I have for you guys today. And I want to make a few quick announcements. If you have time for it. If not, I understand, we all got lives to live. I am moving some of my courses, if not all of them, to Udemy. I've done it now. I'm in the middle of getting that process started and together. I will charge a fee for my courses, but it won't be as high as it is right now on PayHip. It'll be a lot lower. I'm not releasing it just yet, but I'll let you know whenever I do. And also, because I intended to do this by the first, and I had like technical difficulties going on my side. I can't blame you to me, but I know it was all me. If push comes to shove, this special discount that I have is supposed to be for the entire month of October. But if it goes on until November, then, either way it goes, you get to still buy into the course at a lower fee than what I would normally charge and still get the education that you need. More like, maybe I said the wrong thing, instead of saying fee, investment, an investment into your future, investment into knowledge and your future. There we go. Well, anyway, y'all have a great and wonderful, blessed day. I hope I was able to share some of these insights with you. And you let me know, like, your action task today. Put in the comments whether you were rewatching this or you watch this now. Put in the comments, what are you going to do to pivot and transition into getting the funding that you want? Yes, I know we kind of have to fight for it. We've been kind of already doing that. But how are you going to make the transition to get the funding that you want to see? Let me know in the comments. Let me know for those of you who are going to watch this on replay. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, y'all.